Hello and welcome to the Darkest House Solo Edition. This is Gwydion with RPG Frequencies, and I've always been a huge fan of the Darkest House, but frankly, I don't really get the opportunity to schedule a lot of game sessions in advance. Work life just takes over. So I wanted to start a series and see how it goes. This could be a train wreck, which is why I decided at the last minute not to stream it. I'm just recording it. So if you are watching this, then it may not have been at least quite the disaster I thought it could be. So for now, I'm going to be trying to play the Darkest House using a few different tools. So I'll go through those first. The first VTT tool I'll be using is Alchemy RPG. And I'm going to try to keep that mainly to the screenshots and the images to show you what things look like inside the house. And I'll be rolling using 3D dice. There is a dice roller in Alchemy RPG, but I really like rolling even though they're virtual dice. I like rolling dice. So I'm going to be using 3D dice, and I'll have some audio going, and I'm using a program called RPG Sounds streamed to my computer. And that'll be using Tabletop Audio, Monument Studios audio, and probably Plate Mail Games. Mostly today, I think it's Tabletop Audio. So let me start just a little bit of background on the Darkest House. And this was a Kickstarter a few years ago now. They came out with a book, all kinds of, or not all kinds, but some different aspects of the house they released after the initial Kickstarter. I have the original version, which is called the Devoured Halls Edition, which you could only get through the Kickstarter. I'm also backing the Darkest Woods, which is the newest, not really expansion of the house, but it's I guess an adjunct and a similar product, but in the outdoors, obviously. So I'm going to read just a little bit. And oh, sorry, the last thing I'll be using, we'll see how this goes. I've tried different oracles for solo play. Actually, I haven't used them much. I've bought a number of them, but I'm going to be using something called Random Realities by Cesar. I'm not sure his last name. I apologize, but he's made games like Wraithhound. He just launched I think it was on not Game Crafter. It was on Backer, maybe Backer Kid or something like that. It's called Everspark. But he has a number of good games. I think he's the one that also did the Lantern that I played and streamed. So check him out. But I'll be using the Oracle a bit to guide some of my decisions since I'll be playing solo. So I'm not going to go into all the mechanics. We'll get to those as we get into the house, but maybe just kind of give you a little bit of the flavor of what you'll hopefully experience if this goes okay. So the background here is the house invites you in. The house hates you, which is a recurring theme. The house wishes to be left alone. The house is lonely. The house is in pain. The house wants your pain. The house hates you. So it's somewhat a haunted house, but there are a ton of creatures, characters, things that you can encounter in the house. And honestly, I've only run a few sessions of one group through the house. So I'm not even, much as I've read, I'm not even familiar with all of the things that you can encounter in the house. I will be using the app for the house, and I'll show it to you really briefly because this will be the first scene we walk through. Let me get off of this off and this off and this off. So you won't be seeing this. I guess my image is on the screen right now. You won't be seeing the app, but this is what I'll be reading so I can describe a bit of the room and figure out what my PCs do. You'll be seeing more this view, which is in Alchemy RPG. So just an FYI, and then I do have some PDFs. I want to turn on the animation of the dice, and that should hopefully work. Okay, so how do I want to start? Let me introduce you to my characters. And let me go back to the PDF for a second and just put you up to the beginning of this. All right. So I'm going to introduce you. So the characters I have are Valanth Leodon, and he is a level 5 wizard. And I guess I can flip over to that for a second. So let me do that. Turn off the PDF for a second. So Valanth Leodon, and I didn't do much of his background, and I think I will do just a little bit before we jump in, but I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. In the house system, I've converted the level 5 wizard into an overall rating of a 3, and I'll get into that when we do our rolls for the various things that occur in the house. But he's got a 3 overall. He's got investigation because his intelligence is higher. He's got 4, and in general, intelligence related things he'll have 4, Arcana 4, and Charm Charisma. Though he's pretty low, maybe he's got some kind of scars and things that do not give him much charisma. He's got Arcane Recovery, so we'll figure out how to play that. I think I've got that in here somewhere. Dark Vision, so in general, he'll be able to see in the house. And under equipment, I've included his spells. So there will be some spells he can use: Shocking Grasp, Magic Missile, Mage Armor, and some things of that nature. And we'll get into those as needed. Boons, Banes. He gets a boon on all of his spell attack rolls because he carries a Wand of the War Mage. Harms, this will be if he has any wounds, so physical or mental wounds. And then trackers. Yeah, I have these as needed. I'm going to open this character for a second and see if I have any other information. You know what? I think what I need to do, close him down for a second, and I can look over here on his equipment, look at like Mage Armor, and view that view. So I have these little icons. So I did create some of this. You touch a willing creature who isn't wearing armor and a protected magical force. So it's a boon on all rolls to resist physical damage. Okay, that's good to know. I might have to look that up again, but we might want to put that on right away, but we'll see it. So the second character is Dallin Star Knight, and Dallin is a level 5 dwarf cleric. He has dark vision as well and a number of spells. He has a boon on rolls against poison, so to resist poison, and he has a defense boon. So if he is attacked, then he has a shield that he can raise and have a boon when rolling to defend himself against physical harms. And that's it. So let's go back for a second. The one thing I think I want to start with and roll an oracle on is what are called truths and lies. And this, you're supposed to have like a character arc when you are in the house. So it can be a truth and it could be a lie. And it's something that, might come into play as we investigate the house further. And so the way they describe that is a truth is something that the character believes is true, and so does the player. So me, since I'm playing both players. And a lie is something the character believes is true, but the player does not. And I'll figure out how to roll this into the house, but let's maybe go to the random realities PDF. And I can actually click right on here. And the way this works is every page has a ton of oracles on it. So let's just start with a page here, just so I can show you. So there's a general oracle that we'll use if I need a yes or a no. We'll be using this. And if I click on these directly, it will update and basically flip to another page of the oracle. And this will change. So I can do world location. So there's a people. Well, let's just go all through these. General, world, exploration, creation, quest, location, people, creature, fate. So just a general. If I don't know how likely something is, I can roll on the fate chart. And then these dice will change too. So if I click on fate, it does change. There's a D4, a D12, and then 2D6. There's a scene, and then there's people. So I think I am going to think about my character arc. I'm going to use the people oracle, and let's see, maybe I'll combine drive and secret. So let's do that. We're going to start with Leodon. So let's click on people here, and let's get the first. So I can use truth or duty. I like that. That's a good start. So let's use truth. So this one, instead of a lie, this will be a truth, something that's absolutely true. And I actually like dangerous addiction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to I'm going to go back into Alchemy RPG and turn off the PDF so you can see that as well. And let's open our character. I'm going to play Valenth. We're going to unlock him. And we're going to go down to his description. We're going to say, think this will take, at least I thought it would take, maybe not. I thought it would take Markdown. Huh, that's interesting. The shift key is not working. Why not? Okay. We'll say truth. And then we're going to use this shift key. And why is that not working? That is so weird. All right. Truth and dangerous addiction. So I think he's addicted. This is kind of a trope, maybe, but I think he's addicted to, well, maybe it's not magic. Maybe magic. Yeah, I'm going to say it is magic. So addicted to magic. Yeah, that's so odd that my left shift key is not working right now. It's disappointing. Addicted to magic and whenever he is in a pinch, he turns to magic to bail him out. So we'll see if that is good or bad, or see what it does to him. Let's see if that shows up now, bolded. Yeah, that's good. I like that. So that's his truth. So we'll maybe encounter that as the game goes on. So let's go back, and now we're going to do Dalen. So let's go back to our PDF, and let's click on people. And he has drive, healing, and hate. God, this is just working out well because his healing, obviously, as a priest or a cleric character, is great. So let's say it has to do with healing, and his drive is healing, but his secret cursed wealth. Let's see if it's a truth or a lie. So I'm just going to ask the oracle for a second, and we'll keep. I think I want his drive to be healing, and we are going to do an oracle to say, is his secret a truth? Strong yes. Okay. So his is a truth. So whatever it is it's true. So let's click on people one more time. Family, so healing, family, curiosity. I'm going to say, and I don't know, I could probably make this anything. So I'm going to say his truth is that, turn off the PDF, and I'm going to open him. And I'm going to say, again, it's a truth. Yes, that's not truth. He discovered the power of healing and using medicinal herbs as a teen. He healed his sister from a venomous snake bite, which turned him on the path to becoming a cleric. All right, that's good enough. So the last thing we're going to do here is, because you come into the house, but you're not typically, I'm going to say these guys started together, so they know each other. We can flesh out later maybe exactly how they know each other, and I could do some oracle stuff if I want. But I want to start with where did they come from? So they were together. So I'm going to click on location, and I'm just going to look at all of these for inspiration. So let's click on location. So Artifacts Academy, Double Skeleton, Magic Pristine, Sorrow, Innovation History, Isolated Cold. You know, I kind of like Isolated Cold, and I'm going to say they were in an adventuring party. I'm going to say there were 4 or 5 of them, and they were in the Arctic. They were traveling together, and storm hit them by surprise, and they got separated from their party, the 2 of them, and they found themselves in front of a cave entrance. And as they walked further into the cave, they actually just discovered themselves in this room and are just looking around what is a very odd room to them. So that's where we're going to start. So let me turn on a little bit of background music. Make sure this isn't too loud. There we go. It should slowly start, hopefully. Oh, that's why. Okay. Okay. I'm going to have to check and make sure that this is not too loud, but so it looks like they have found themselves, and we'll get used to this over time, but I'm going to try to shoot. Why is that not? That's really frustrating. Okay. So for you, you should see my little mug up there, and I'm going to flip over to the house, but you won't see this. So it's a very, it's a strange looking room because obviously we come from the medieval world. So these are D&D characters. So they're going to know a little bit about, furniture and that type of thing for sure. But as they kind of walk into this room and then realize that somehow they've gotten here from the cave, which is really, really strange to them, they look around and, let me make sure I have my characters' names, Leodin and Leodin. I'm gonna have to write this down somewhere. Sorry, Valenth and Dalen. Valenth and Dalen. I'm gonna see if I can remember that. Valenth is the wizard. So Valenth, who's very investigative and is kind of very curious, is looking around, and it's very dusty as he walks around the room and looks over at Dalen and says, do you know where we are? And of course, Dalen's like, we were just in a cave, and he's brushing off snow and from the outside, and it's much warmer in here. But as they look around, very dim lighting, but they both have dark vision, so they can both see pretty well. And there are windows. Looks like there's a curtain up in the corner over there, and it looks like right where they've come in, they look on the ground, and we're gonna say I'm gonna turn off the PDF because I might be rolling, but I don't want to jar you with that. So I'm gonna say, does Valenth find the paper? And if he doesn't, it's gonna be Dalen. That's a weak no. So I'm going to say Dalen is closer. Valenth is maybe going over to the couch by the window and looking over there. And Dalen looks on the ground and he sees a piece of paper. And we are going to do, I wonder the best way to do this. I think what it'll be is me trying to, I'm going to bring this up. It's going to take me a bit there we go. So some of this I will do directly in the Devoured Halls app, and then I think that's the best way to do it. So he sees this piece of paper on the ground. And what it says is, Marjorie attempted to get me to leave the house today, and it's dated February 4th. You've been cooped up in there all winter, she said. I told her I wasn't well and that she should come back another day. I feel fine, of course, but I've no desire to interact with the world today. The girl from the grocery store brings me food and necessities every week. I've no need to walk about in the sun and see the sights. I have all the sights I need here in the house and in my books. Fresh air holds no appeal, particularly in this cold month. Perhaps in spring I'll venture out and make Marjorie happy. Summer at the latest. February 7th. Heard the child's laughter again today. I suspect there must be some little animal in the walls. Interesting. I'm going to download that and maybe put it in my Darkest House folder just so I remember next time. And I'm going to have a new folder, session 0. And I'm going to put that in there so I know that I found it. All right, so interesting. So child's laughter, and there's no date, so who knows when this occurred. So as Dallin's doing that, Valenth is going over to the window and he checks out the window and he looks at it, and as he kind of pulls back the curtains, it's just black. There's nothing, and it's odd because he has dark vision. So he looks over at Dalen and says, can you see anything out here? What kind of magic is this? And he's kind of knocking on the window that sounds incredibly hard, almost like stone, but it does look clear. It just seems as if it is just pitch black, and Dallin notices the same thing. So they both look at each other, and they go over to the table, and there's some odd fixture on the table, and as they touch what appears to be a button on it, they see some light up, which is really strange. For them, out of character for a second, they wouldn't have any idea what electricity is, I don't think. So they look at this, and obviously they wouldn't know what that is. They know torchlight, but they're looking at it again in awe, and they keep hitting the button, but very, very strange. So they leave it on, so they have a little bit of light, and kind of in the corner where they are. In fact, shoot, I want to take off remember to keep taking this off for you. So they're kind of in that straight ahead as you look into this picture. You see the lamp, and to the right they see a hallway that looks pretty dark, but what catches their eye is a little bit of an opening in a closet. So Valenth is going to look in the closet a bit, and he sees various coats and jackets. And there's a shelf above, and while he's looking above, I think Dalen gonna kind of squeeze in and look on the ground. So as Valenth's looking above, there's a shelf with a single glove and a broken umbrella. On the floor in the closet, Dalen notices a small cardboard box. There's some dead flies and 3 very old pieces of mail that Dalen sees, and it's addressed to a Philip Harlock. And one of the pieces of paper is an offer from an insurance agent, whatever that is, a postcard, which is odd, he's never seen before, advertising a sale at a local hardware store, and finally an invoice from a mail order bookseller for 2 books, Automatic Writing and The Bell Signals Night. As he looks at the bottom, he notices a small bit of torn canvas with a large green eye painted on it, life size. It's really, really strange, and he looks at it and he investigates it a bit more. It's really eerie to him because it looks real. It looks as real as it can get. But Valenth looks at him and says, "What have you got there, Dalen?" And Dalen shows it to him. And Valenth says, very, very strange. I don't know what this place is, and that looks very, very odd. I don't want it. And Dalen shrugs and he puts it in his backpack. So he is going to keep that. So I am going to go back here for a second. And we're going to go to Dalen. And Dalen is going to, I think there is, I don't know if I can search for this. Yeah, there we go. So I think what I'll do for now, oh, you know what? Instead of putting it on this character sheet, I'm going to see if I can make session 0 notes. Dalen discovers a torn piece of canvas with a lifelike. Don't know what that is yet, but he will keep it. So they're going to look and see if there's anything else in this room. So in the meantime, let's see what else is in here. Is there anything else they can see? They see a front door and they turn it, and both of them take turns trying to open it, but without any success. So there is a doorway that appears to be kind of next to the odd, what we know as a lamp, but that they certainly don't. So they're looking to the doorway and they see what appears to be a very dark hallway. And they both look at each other, and Valen says, can you see through here? And they can both kind of make out it's pretty dark, but it does appear with their dark vision that this long hallway appears to head to another door at the end of the hallway. So they look at it, and I think typically Dalen is going to be the one that is a little more of the adventurous type, and he has a little more strength. So he looks at Valen and stay behind me. I don't know what magic this is or what type of door this is, but let me see if I can open it. So Dalen goes up to the door, turns the handle, and it does open. And what he sees is another room. And that room looks like this. All right. So this is as they look inside this is a huge room. Huge room with wooden flooring and brick walls, excuse me. Brick pillars rise to the ceiling in a single row. So from where we are in the doorway, Valen and Dalen look at each other, and they're both looking. They can't see the edge of the room on the left-hand side. It's just super dark. And on the right-hand side, the brick wall is several large high-place windows, but it's only darkness. What little light there is in this room somehow comes from them, and the far side of the room fades into darkness as well. So I'm going to look just a little bit more here. So there is something that one of the characters, as we walk into the room, is going to encounter. So I'm going to say, does Valen encounter? Is Valen the one that encounters what's in the room? Weak yes, but it's a yes. So I'm going to say, as Valen walks into the room, he hears what appears to be the giggling of a child. I don't know if that is a sound in here, but I want to take a look at it for a second and see if this is something. Sorry, I'll get a little better at this, but for now I'm trying to figure out, maybe there's nothing in here. handouts, tools. Oh, here we go. So Valen hears this and he looks up startled and he looks over at Dalen and says, "What in the world was that?" And Dalen looks at him and says, what are you talking about? Hear what?" And Valen looks at him very puzzled and says, Didn't you hear? Did you hear that? It sounded like a child." Dalen looks at him very quizzically, like, "Is your magic finally getting to you, old man?" And Dalen looks over and said, "No, you really didn't hear that?" And and then as Dalen stops for a second and kind of ponders and listens really closely, he hears it again as well. He hears it again as well. And this time he says, "Whoa. I did not hear that before, but I did hear that this time." So, but they both investigate and they cautiously walk towards the center of the room. And as they do that, then they see what appears to be some pulled up floorboards. So there's kind of a hole in next to one of the pillars, and they see that, but they're kind of looking around and walking around to see if they can see this girl, what it sounded like a girl, and they don't see anything. And let's see. Okay, so they look at the floorboards here, and there's a hole that appears to be left by some of the removed boards that are about a foot across. And underneath it, as they both investigate, they see a wooden subfloor. And as they're kind of looking through this and kind of deathly quiet, it's just the two of them, they both hear what sounds like the ticking of a clock. But it sounds like it's much faster than a normal ticking. So as they look at each other, I definitely think that they would investigate. And I feel like Dalen's the more adventurous. So he's going to look at Valent and say, "Hey, why don't you stand over just in case something happens at that big pillar just ahead of us, and let me investigate this." So he starts prying up the floor a little bit, but he can't see the bottom. The hole seems to curve around. So he reaches down into the hole, and what he sees is a large metal object. And he pulls out this ornate pewter mantle-style clock that has two clock faces, each showing a different time. So he looks at it and he waves Valent over, and he asks Valent, "Have you ever seen something like this?" And Valent looks at it and he says, "No, not in all of my years. I know not what this is and what type of clock this is." And so they hold on to this for a bit, and they're kind of looking, and they decide I think they'd want to investigate. So they look straight ahead, and the room seems to go on forever as they both walk together for a moment, and they're going to hold on to the clock. Dalen wants to hold on to the clock, but he looks straight ahead. And as he keeps walking, it just more pillars appear, and it seems to go on forever. It seems like they come again now that they've distanced themselves from where the hole was. They see a place in the floor where someone has plied up floorboards. but it's not a different spot. It's just the same one. And the rooms keep seeming to repeat over and over. So I think for the moment, they're going to pause and they're going to look at this clock again. And they're not sure what to do with the clock. So I'm going to roll a fate check. And let's see what the options are. Could set the clocks so that the left clock's time is earlier than the right. They could set the clock so the right clock's time's earlier than the left, or they could set the clocks to the same times. They're kind of three options. I don't think they'd have any idea. So I'm going to take those in order, and we're going to go back to the fate roll. And I think in this case, Dallin, we're going to roll. You know what we're going to do? Actually, we're not going to roll. We're going to roll a D. I might even have a D3. Let me get the darkest house roll here. We're going to roll a D6, and a 1 and a 2 is going to be the first option. So 1 or a 2, they're going to set the clocks where the left time is earlier than the right. 3 and a 4, they're going to set the clock so the right clock's time is earlier than the left. And then a 5 or a 6, they're going to set the clocks to the same time. Okay, so this is what Dalen's going to do. So let's roll his D6. So 1 or a 2. So what he's going to do, so Dalen sets the clock so that the left clock's time is earlier. And this is kind of how it was when they found it, and nothing happened. He kind of says, they spend some time walking around the rest of the room and looking, but they don't seem to see much of anything else. And as they're walking around, they do make out the shadow of a ghost as they're exploring the rest of the room. And on occasion, they'll hear, and they see her, but they don't always. They occasionally hear her, and you hear her giggle a bit and say, "Silly adults," until she vanishes again. So they're gonna try again. So 1 or a 2, I'm gonna say they set the clock. And this time, Dalen gives it to Valent. Say, hey, you take a look. So Valent, 1 or a 2, he's going to set the clock so the right time is earlier. And a 3 or a 4, he's going to set the clock to the same time. Let's try that. Actually, I'll say 1, 2, or 3 because I only have a D6 here. So 1, a 1. So what he does. So he sets the clock so the right clock's time is earlier than the left. And as Valent does that, he notices a small black doorway appears in between the two dark clock faces. And as he looks at it, he immediately disappears. And the clock drops on the floor. And Dalen is looking around. And he's like, oh my God. And he hears this ghostly chuckle again. Your friend is lost. And Dalen, wanting to make sure that he stays with Valent, he pulls the clock up and he's looking all around. And he sees this blackness in the center of the clock. And as he's looking at it, it kind of expands and encompasses all of his vision. And as he does that, the clock drops in the room, and that room is now deathly silent as both Valent and Dalen are gone. And we will take a minute and figure out where did they go. Give me a minute to find that. And all right. We are going to open up another screen. All right. So as they basically teleported into this room, and they don't know how they got there, Valent and Dalen both look at each other, and they're standing on what appears to be this large oval blue rug with gold embroidery. It's on this stone floor, and they're standing on this, and they kind of both look at each other. It's just like, how did we get here? And he looks at Dalen. He says, I looked at this clock and I saw this blackness, and then I just ended up here. And Dalen says, the same. I'm probably going to mix and match voices because I'm never good at voices. But Dalen says, yes, the same. I looked and you were gone, and the clock dropped. And I ran my hands over the clock. I looked everywhere, and I heard this child's voice tell me that you were lost and gone. And I looked in the center of the clock, and then I ended up here and found you. So they're both kind of getting acclimated, and as they look around, they see the rug, and then they look in front of them. Let's see. So they do not, although it looks like there is kind of a wall straight ahead of them. To them, there is nothing there, and I can explain that later. But they see, and they kind of both look straight ahead. They walk over to the left, and they see a door to their upper left. And so up in the corner, I don't remember if my cursor is visible. I think it is. So up here in the left corner, and they walk again to the right, and they see a door in the upper right corner. So they kind of go back into the room, and I'm going to say they're inquisitive. And I'm going to see, let's see. I want to ask the Oracle, would they try to look under the rug? They may not. So I'm going to ask, and if they do, we'll say it's, we'll say one of them does. So let's ask the Oracle here, do they look under the rug? No. Okay. So they would have found something under the rug, but as I understand it, it's not story breaking. So we're going to say that they go either to the right or left after they look around this room and they don't see. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. They do see a very stout door in front of them that doesn't appear to be open. So straight ahead of them, it looks like a very, stone thick, stout door that as they walk up to it and try to open it, nothing. So as they look at the left and the right, there are two options to go. So let's consult the Oracle. And let's just say, do they go to the left? And we'll let that determine if they go left or right. So I'm going to do my simple Oracle. So do they go to the left-hand door? Strong no. So they go to the right. So they go up to the right. And the door is unlocked. So as they open the door, let's see what they find. So they open the door. And this is what they see. So the room, as they walk in, immediately smells of musty, dusty death and of misery long past. And there is a huge, or it looks like it's a human-sized bird cage that hangs from the ceiling about 9 feet above the floor. And it holds the remains of some wretch that died within it. So it's definitely not, it's more, I think, bones than anything. But there are also, in the middle of the floor is just an enormous pile of human remains. And they cover the floor in what appears to be a carpet. And and it just looks like a mass murder. There's also bookcases and open cabinetry. It looks like just dusty and empty in general. So I'm going to pause for a second. One of the things I definitely should have said at the beginning is, even though I'm playing solo, I am releasing this online. So a lot of trigger warnings here. There's going to be, death. There's going to be psychological horror. I don't even know all of them, so I apologize in advance. But please keep in mind, be safe. If there's something in here that doesn't appeal to you or is disturbing, please go elsewhere, and maybe this might not be the stream for you. I love horror, so that's why I'm playing this game. So, okay. All right, so what are they going to do first? I mean, I definitely think they would stay and look on the ground. So they're gonna certainly look through the bookcases and cabinetry, and we'll say as they do that, Valenth and Dalen. I'm gonna have to write this down next. Valenth is going to look. He's going to kind of go left and look at the cabinets and such, and keep an eye on the cage to see if anything is like jumps out at him. And Dalen is going to go kind of north and a little bit to the east and see what he sees. And they both look back at each other and they don't see anything there. So I'm going to say that Dalen is more familiar with death, but I'm going to give a chance for both of them to look through the pile of the remains. So give me a second and I'll go through that. And I'm going to say that, so as I looked at those oracles, Dalen doesn't look, but something kind of catches Valenth's eye, and he is going to kind of look through, and he's going to use his wand. And Dalen is kind of backing away. That I think the remains kind of scare him a bit, but Valenth is a little more used to not necessarily death, because I would say that Dalen is too, but I think he's not as taken aback by death as Dalen is. So Valenth starts using his wand to move aside all of these bodies, and they clatter and clack as he's kind of walking through them and using his wand. And as he does that, the first thing he sees is a key carved from a human femur. So we're going to look for that and make sure. I'm going to open my PDF for a second, because I think there are certain keys, and I want to make sure that I pull those up. So let's see. Yes, so I'm going to show this to you for a second, because we're getting a little bit of insight. I don't want to look at all these, and we don't know what it's to for sure, but we just found the bone key in the storeroom of sorts. So we found that. We are going to move to the next. So as we do that, and obviously Valenth is going to show Dalen this, like, it looks like a key, but this certainly looks like bone or a leg. And Dalen agrees. He says, yes, I've seen many bones, and I would agree. And they are going to hold on to that, put it in their pack. And the second thing he finds is a page in a book. So as he looks at that, he reads this to Dalen out loud. And what it says is, December 10th, my old teacher referred to something he called a mind palace. He said that it was a place where he could mentally preserve all his thoughts, his memories, and his ideas. He visualized it as an actual place. The thoughts and ideas became objects within this place, carefully organized and stored away. Some might be carefully protected, locked away, and some might be displayed prominently. He could then visit his mind palace whenever he wanted. He visited over and over, always visualizing the objects that represented his thoughts and memories in the same places. He made it very real, at least to him. He could close his eyes and see himself there, strolling the halls, the rooms, visiting the rooms. He wouldn't even have to consciously remember where he placed which object. They were just there, ready for him to peruse. While he originally created his mind palace as a way of remembering everything he wanted to remember, he said that it became far more than that. He felt as though it was truly a retreat, designed only for him, a place of respite only he could visit. He reveled in the privacy of it, and he insisted that it preserved his memories so completely that he could replay in his mind perfect recordings. All right. So they found this text, and I should probably download that and save it so that I remember that. Okay, we got that. And the only thing left in this room is the cage. I'm going to say that, look, they're going to explore every aspect, at least at this point. I don't think they have any reason to not explore everything. So I'm going to say that Dalen does look up. As he looks at it, he looks at Valenth and says, I think there's something in the cage. And Dalen asks Valenth, would you mind giving me a boost? And so given Dalen is certainly shorter than Valenth, who's an elf, but he's certainly taller than the dwarf is, he gets on his shoulders and he looks into this cage. And as Dalen looks inside of this cage, he sees a desiccated skeleton that clutches a large golden key in one hand and a silver key in the other. And as they're looking in here, now that he looks and he can see it closer, he also sees a key that is in the mouth of the skeleton's skull. So although the cage is sturdy, he can look in the cage and he can see all these things, and he can remove all these keys. So so we get a gold key, a silver key, and a nickel brass key. So I'm going to click on those: gold key, silver key, and plain key. Okay. I've got all those keys. And I'm going to ask, there's one more thing they could find here that I'm going to ask the Oracle if they find inside the cage. So I'm going to ask and see if Dalen finds it. I'm going to give it just a basic chance. So we're going to click and see if he finds it. It's a no. So that could prove bad, and I'll explain that later. But they do not find what could have been a message that could have been helpful. But they do not find that. So, all right. So they continue to look around this room, and they don't seem to find anything more, and they don't find any way out at the moment. So give me 1 second. And, I know that's a little bit strange and eerie. I don't really necessarily hear that music, or maybe I do. But we're going to go out of this room, and let me see back in the app so I can see. So we're back into this room, and I think we might explore one more room and then maybe call this first part. I'm having fun, so I think I will load this set. I don't know how compelling it'll be, but I'm enjoying it. So we're going to go into, and I think Dalen is going to first go into the room at the top left. And this room is unlocked as well. So as they open the door, they go into a room Looks like this. So this large rectangular chamber has bookcases on 3 walls, as well as a simple wooden desk and matching chair. The desk has a reading lamp on it, and I don't think they would know what that is, but it's some device that is giving off a little bit of a glow, a light, and they wouldn't know what that is. But they also see there's a few pens and a notebook, and instead of kind of having a pleasant smell of old books, this room seems to have the odor of stifling loneliness, very ominous and oppressive. I'm going to see if I can switch over to something music that might sound more interesting, maybe. See if that clicks over. Yeah. All right. So as they look at this, they're certainly going to, I would think, investigate the books and the bookcases. But I think what would stand out to them both first is probably the desk. So I'm going to say that, let's say that Valen walks up to the desk and starts looking around. And then I think Dalen, while Valen does that, Dalen is going to turn to the left and look at bookcase 1, or the left bookcase. So let's go to Valen first, who's looking at the desk. So it has no drawers or cabinets. But as he's investigating, I'm going to roll on the Oracle table. All right. So he is investigating the desk, and he's running his hands all around it, and he notices that on the underside of the table is a leather holster with some metallic object. And what you and I know as a handgun, he looks at this and he's never seen what that is. So I think for now, he would keep it and he will put it into his bag, but he looks at it and shows it to Dallin. And I'm going to see, do they investigate this further? Do they do something more with this? And as they do that, and I'm doing this some with the Oracle, I'm not going to call all of these things out, but give me a minute. I'm going to try to do something else here, maybe. See what else might work. So as Valand is looking at this thing, he actually pulls the trigger, not knowing what this thing is. He's investigating it, and it goes and it hits Dallin, but it just glances off of him, and because Dallin had his shield attached to him, it doesn't injure him, but it does graze him, and it wastes one of 5 shots that it has. So Valens looks up like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know what this was. And he kind of hands it to Dallin and says, be very careful. And Dallin, who's a little more experienced with weaponry in general, is able to kind of open it and look at it and realize this is some type of weapon. He says we must be very, very cautious with this, but he is going to pocket this. And for now, we will give him a weapon. Let's play Dallin. And Dallin, we are going to give him an equipment. Actually, you know what we can do? We're going to go over here to equipment and add item and say, create item, handgun. And we're going to say weapon quantity. It has ammunition, so we're going to say 4, just so I know it has 4 shots to it. All right. Dallin's pretty spooked. It goes without saying, I think. But he is going to look at the staircase, or the bookcase on the left. And as he looks here, he's kind of looking through different books, and he sees a book called the Dream Eaters. And he kind of stops there for a second, and he finds another one that's titled Cornucopia. Not sure what that is either. And finally, he finds a book that is titled The Eyes of the Child. And as he's flipping through the pages, he notices tucked in the pages is another small bit of torn canvas with a large green eye. And he looks at Valent and says, look, here's another one. So he really scratches his head. He's not sure what it is, but he's certainly going to keep it. And he's going to put that in his bag as well. So for now, Dallin has got that as well. And I will put a note here under notes. Oh, I thought I did that under notes. Maybe I did it under journal. So I'll put it under the journal now and say, I want to get rid of this. Delete that. And in my journal, I'm going to say, Dallin discovers another torn piece of canvas with a lifelike eye. So he has 2, and Valent, we'll say Valent has the handgun, give them both something. Valent found a handgun with 4 shots, but we'll say gave it to Dallin for now, because I did have Dallin keep it. All right. What else do they want to do in here? So let's say that after looking at the notebook, Valent is going to look at the second bookcase, which is on the right-hand side. And I'm reading here. Okay, so there's something that's hidden, so he has to, it's going to be his first roll in the Darkest House. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to roll, and because Valent has investigation 4, we're going to roll this with, he gets a +4 to his roll, and the rating of the hidden object is a 3. So he's going to get a +4. He has to take a -3 for the rating of the object. So he gets a +1. So my target rating is always, actually, I'm going to read this, but I believe always a 7. So I'm looking again at the actions in the house. Yeah, it rolls 2d6, add the rating, less the opposing. So let's see. Well, hold on. Yeah. So yeah, I'll subtract that. So he needs to get higher than a 7. So 2d6 +1. But then I'm also going to roll the house die, and I'll explain that. So I rolled a 7. So 5 + 1 is 6. So I rolled a 7. And then we are also going to roll next the house die. That's 1d6. So I got a 5 and a 1, which is important to know. And the house die is a 1, so the house does not act. If the house die would have been higher than both my 5 and my 1. So if I got a 6 in that case, because I did roll a 5, the house would have acted, and that's bad. So the house did not act, but I did discover this. There's a wooden box that looks like it was hidden in disguise to look like a book with a spine that says history. But as I find this and I look inside, I find a gold pocket watch. Looks like it stopped. It's worth a little bit of money. Not that he would know. And there's a large custom jewelry ring with a secret compartment. And I guess, let's roll. Does he find the compartment? So I'm going to roll on the Oracle. No. So he finds this gold pocket watch and this custom jewelry ring, but at the moment, that's all he knows, and that's all he's found. So let's go to Valanth, and let's play him for a moment. And let's going to go to equipment. Let's add item. We're going to add gold pocket watch. Pocket watch. I need to add an item. Did I? Yeah, I did. Gold pocket watch. Right? And that is just a basic item. And I'm going to say cost 30. I don't know that he'll know. 30 gold pieces or 30 gold, whatever. And we're going to save that. And then he found a create item piece of costume jewelry. And that's also a basic item. And I will say in the description, has a hidden compartment with a dose of poison, rating 6, which Valanth not discovered. So he does not know about it. All right. All right, so what do they have left? They have one more bookcase, and that shelf is straight ahead of them. So it looks like it's packed with books of all different colors, sizes, ages, but only about half of the books have titles on their spines. And as both Dallin and Valanth kind of go up here before they're looking at, they do see a couple of doors, but they look at them, and as Valanth gets a little closer, then the books shuffle and move as if someone is rearranging them very super fast. I mean, they're moving with blinding speed. And when they go still a moment, and Valanth kind of gathers himself and looks, he sees the word stop is spelled out faintly in the arrangement of new books based on the color and appearance of the spines. So he's looking at this, and he's looking at Dallin and deciding what he wants to do next. And I think that's where I'm going to call it for today. So I'm going to pause the music. I enjoyed that. I think I'll get better at describing my character's actions and knowing what they might do and using the oracles a bit. But I think that worked reasonably well. I had fun. So I hope you did too. If you did and you want to see more of the explorations here of Valanth and Dallin, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I think I will at least do one more of these sessions and record it and upload it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I loved using Alchemy, and I think the various tools worked reasonably well together. So thanks again. Happy gaming all, and I will see you next time. Thanks.